You stand inside the monumental stadium in 1978 as the crowd erupts for Argentina. 1 kilometer away at ESMA, prisoners hear every cheer. The junta hosts the World Cup during the Dirty War. What are they hiding behind the flags? You watch General Videla greet world leaders at the opening ceremony. 30,000 people have already vanished. The dictatorship needs a victory to polish its image. How far will the generals go to manufacture glory? You follow General Lacoste as he takes charge of the organizing committee. Declassified records show military oversight of every detail. Corruption findings emerge later. Why does the junta embed itself so deeply in FIFA operations? You walk the streets of Buenos Aires where propaganda posters replace disappeared faces. The tournament becomes the regime's showcase. Survivors later testify the celebrations reached the torture center. Can a sporting event cleanse state terror? You see Argentina advance while rumors swirl around the Peru match. Peruvian ex-Senator Genaro Ledesma alleges a fix in 2012 testimony. The Peruvian players always deny it. No court ever proves the claim. What really happened that night? You witness Videla presenting the trophy on the pitch. The dictatorship celebrates openly. Meanwhile the ESMA horror continues steps away. How does a nation cheer while its own people disappear nearby? You examine the FIFA correspondence now declassified. Military involvement appears routine, not exceptional. The junta treats the tournament as state business. What does this reveal about the true purpose of hosting? You hear the final whistle and the explosion of joy. Survivors inside ESMA describe the sound traveling through walls. The contrast is unbearable. Can football ever be separated from the regime that weaponized it? You trace how the victory was meant to legitimize the dictatorship abroad. Instead it freezes the horror in memory. The proven nightmare sits beside the pitch. What happens when sport and terror share the same neighborhood? You open faded military folders from 1978. Orders assign stadium construction to junta units while bodies vanish from the same streets. How did these pages stay sealed for decades? What else remains locked away? You follow the paper trail to General Lacoste. He chairs the organizing committee while directing security sweeps around River Plate. His signature appears on both budgets and detention lists. Who approved this dual role? You read FIFA letters requesting guarantees of safety. The junta replies with polished assurances and hidden prisoner transfers. The correspondence looks routine. Then one sentence mentions special measures near the monumental. You stand at the ESMA gates. The torture center sits 1 kilometer from the pitch. Survivors later describe hearing chants through the walls. How many officials walked between these two sites on match days? You uncover a 1978 junta memo celebrating foreign press coverage. The text calls the tournament a triumph of image. The same file lists disappeared journalists. Which reporters never filed their final stories? You trace the first public crack, a 1980s exile testimony naming Lacoste. The claim is dismissed as propaganda. Years later, the same name surfaces in declassified cables. Who decided to ignore the warning? You examine the Peru match footage again. Peruvian ex-Senator Genaro Ledesma later alleges in sworn 2012 testimony that the 6-0 result was arranged. Every Peruvian player denies it. No court has proven the claim. You watch Videla hand over the trophy on the podium. The image circles the world as proof of stability. Behind the cameras, detention centers continue operating. What story did the photographs actually tell? You close the final folder. Every document shows the regime embedding itself inside the tournament. None of them contain orders to rig results. The horror lies in what they openly planned instead. You trace the map from the monumental stadium to the ESMA complex 1 kilometer away. Survivors inside the torture rooms later described the roar of the crowd bleeding through the walls. The same dates align with match schedules. How close does celebration sit to disappearance? General Lacoste directs the organizing committee while holding military rank. Documents list his authority over ticketing, hotels, and press access. Corruption probes surface years later yet never reach the junta's core decisions. What power does a uniform grant inside a sporting body? You read the ESMA survivors' sworn accounts again. They hear the final whistle, the chants for Kemps, then the sudden silence when guards return. The regime never hides the stadium's location. It places the horror beside the spectacle. Why keep the two sites so deliberately adjacent? Videla appears at every opening ceremony and medal ceremony. Official photos show him smiling beside FIFA officials. Internal memos treat these appearances as essential propaganda. The images travel worldwide. What message do the generals believe the world will accept? The Peru match result remains an open file. In 2012, a former Peruvian senator testifies under oath that Argentine officials offered incentives. Peruvian players continue to deny any arrangement. No court has ever confirmed the claim. What really happened on that pitch? You examine the budget ledgers the junta approved. Funds flow freely to stadium construction and foreign journalists' hotels. The same ledgers list no line for player payments. The absence itself raises the next question. What costs does the regime record openly? Detention center records show increased prisoner transfers on match days. Guards receive extra rations when Argentina advances. The pattern appears in multiple survivor testimonies. The tournament calendar and the terror calendar overlap without written orders. How does coincidence become policy? FIFA correspondence thanks the military for security guarantees. The letters never mention disappearances. The organization treats the junta as a reliable host. You set the letters beside the ESMA maps. Which document tells the fuller story? The final whistle echoes through the stadium while 3 blocks away interrogations continue. No single paper orders the two events to coexist. They simply do. You close the last declassified folder. What larger plan stays hidden because it was never written down? You open the final declassified cables. Videla receives the trophy on the pitch, his smile frozen for state cameras. 3 kilometers away, ESMA prisoners hear the roar. The junta counts attendance numbers as proof of normalcy. Survivors later testify the celebration's masked screams. You trace the timeline, matches scheduled, interrogations logged. Nothing in the files links the two directly. The absence itself becomes evidence. General Lacoste's organizing committee spent millions on stadiums while debt mounted. Audits later flag missing funds. You read the junta's internal memos celebrating the tournament as political victory. The Peru result remains an allegation. Ledesma's 2012 testimony claims pressure, Peruvian players always denied it. No court ever confirmed fixing. The score stands untouched in official records. FIFA archives show routine thanks to the hosts. No mention of the disappeared. You place those letters next to prisoner lists. The silence grows louder than any stamped order. Post-tournament, Videla's regime gains temporary international breathing room. Foreign journalists report a successful event. You note the date when the junta declares the World Cup a triumph for Argentina. Years later, trials expose how the regime used the tournament for propaganda. You read survivor accounts again. The stadium and the torture center remain 1 kilometer apart. No single document orders celebration beside disappearances. The files simply record both as separate operational matters. You close the folder. The overlap stays unspoken. The last pages reveal only routine security reports. FIFA never inquires further. You ask what the organization chose not to see in the guarantees it accepted. The records close. The full coordination between tournament logistics and repression never appears on paper. What larger machinery operated without needing written orders?